Hello, beautiful souls. It is Dante here. Thank you for tuning into the channel today. I am very pleased to chat with you on this day. On this day, I'm feeling really bright and brilliant and really open to beautiful things that I'm creating for myself in my own life and that I'm supporting others with in their healing process around the world. There's been a lot of momentum in those areas, though these other days I've been feeling a lot of intense heaviness from the collective, and I have been feeling just so uncertain at points, a little bit doubtful when I see the way that other humans are responding to this situation we are in, which is quite a doozy. Now, I have posted many channeling videos where the Pleiadians speak to what's happening and where people ask questions about this whole situation we are in. And if you are with me on Facebook, I have shared some more little memes and opinions, though I haven't gone too far into it. And I feel like it's time for that to change today. So how do I see this whole situation with COVID-19, coronavirus, global lockdown? First of all, how has this affected me? Well, I'm here in Guatemala, and from the start of this many weeks ago, we had curfew at 4 o'clock. It was then pushed back to 6 o'clock, and now it's 5 o'clock. We had a couple days where we only had a couple of hours to go out, and now we have the weekends are full lockdown, no going out. And I'm out here in the forest, and even the police have walked by and yelled, "Policia, we're here, like, don't go out, don't walk through the forest, because you'll spread coronavirus." So it's a little bit strange, and it's been on my mind of going back to the United States. I don't know where I would go. That's coming in and out of my mind, but here I am, and this is what's happening. And people are kind of freaked out a bit here in Guatemala. Though what's more a bit frightening in Guatemala is, for example, there is a city very close to the Mexican border that was shut down entirely without notice. And this is an impoverished nation where a lot of people are living hand to mouth and they're not able to work now. And it's really impacting people, and already people, some people are being pushed to starvation here. So you can look at it of, we're doing this for your safety in the northern countries where there are better welfare systems set up and people are being kind of handed what they need. Some people, not all people, and not everyone is able to tap into all of the benefits that are there. So you can say that up there to an extent, but here and in the developing world, this is pretty freaky for people, and it's actually impacting people who are otherwise healthy when we see that this is a disease that is really mostly affecting people with pre-existing immunological issues and people who are elderly. So, and I have been going back and forth in looking at evidence for all of the perspectives about this. And it's so funny that you type in any of these things into a search engine and you will get evidence for this and evidence for that. Evidence for wearing masks and social distancing is helpful. Evidence for this is weakening our immune systems and making us more likely to catch infections and become generally unhealthy. You can find evidence to say that this is related to 5G and evidence that says it is not. You can find evidence to say that this was a planned thing and evidence to say this was not. And I have a lot of friends and people in my life who are very committed to knowing and understanding everything, and they get the most stressed out. So while, I'm both a producer of content and also a consumer of it through social media, and it's a give and take thing. Like, I want to see what the collective pulse is as I'm feeding something into it. So I go through Facebook and YouTube, and you see all of these like conflicting opinions back and forth nonstop. And so there's evidence for everything. How do we really know? And the truth of this for me is that what is truly most important for everybody is to use a negative experience in a positive way. So there are, of course, silver linings to this. For example, the natural ecosystems have restored to some extent while things have been shut down. And on the flip side, there's been people who have been so stressed out and pushed into great challenges for this. And you can say that that's part of an awakening process, though, an awakening process is often something very challenging and soul-crushing, but it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that, and we don't want it to be that necessarily. Just because, people early in an awakening journey, before so many people were awakening, had huge dark nights, doesn't mean that everyone in their awakening has to go through that as well. So if we can avoid those harsher experiences that push people to see things in a different way, we want to do that. And it's quite a bonkers thing. What I was really saying was, what matters most is what you do for yourself. It's how you charge yourself with energy. It's how you use your time to follow your passion, to take care of yourself, to strengthen the connections that matter most for you. And these are things that I have been saying from the very beginning. And this is also what's come through the Pleiadian Council, as well as many spiritual teachers, including one of my favorites, Bashar, who is a channeled extraterrestrial from the race Sasani. And Bashar is really some being I consider a teacher for me of how to channel, imparted a lot of information of how to get in that state and how to change my life and change my belief system so I was a more receptive channel. And it's very funny when you look at what Bashar says about all of this. At first, Bashar said that this is a manifestation of humans disconnecting from nature. When we start to destroy different ecosystems, then those ecosystems will collapse to an extent, and viruses that would be contained by the ecosystems then start to get out. So this is supporting this idea that this came from bats. And taking this a step further, weeks after the fact, in the next channeling, Bashar came to say that, oh yes, well, this was altered in a lab by man, but we don't want to speak too much about that. We didn't say it initially because we don't want people to focus on the conspiracy theory end of this, which to me was a little bit backwards. The Pleiadian Council said, and I believe Cryon as well said, much before Bashar did not say anything about it, that this was created in a lab, created by man. And I believe the Pleiadian Council also said in my transmission that this was intentional. And that is really my train of thought. But before I go into that, once any of these opinions are expressed, people have already kind of decided and identified with a perspective. And this is something that really needs to change in these times. All of the political systems that I am very much aware of are built upon an us versus them structure, especially in the United States where I'm from. We have Democrats and we have Republicans opposing each other. And then one belief that is common to one party, if you believe that and you find yourself kind of funneled into the whole thing through that belief, then you start to get all of this push into accepting these other beliefs, that this is just what Democrats believe, this is just what Republicans believe, and then you get very oppositional forces at work. And duality is the name of the game when it comes to living in illusion, living in a state of not being aware of yourself as source, and source is oneness, and source is love. So, what has become much more shocking as things go on is seeing how people are in great states of conflict with each other online and social media, that if you believe this and if you're not following this, then you are bad and wrong and you're the other. You're one side, people are saying these are the sheeple, the other side saying that these are the, they're throwing the term out for anyone who is questioning the narrative that they are alt-right conspiracy theorists. So conspiracy theory was a term invented by the CIA to kind of put this spooky spell on anyone questioning those narratives to begin with. And that is a big topic because they really don't want you to question things. Now, there are channels being removed from YouTube. David Icke was removed from YouTube, and David Icke has also said a lot of things that I think are really fear-based information, but we should be alarmed by this, even if we don't agree with it. I don't agree 100% with what David Icke says. I maybe agree with 50% of it, but I am feeling this big ring go off when a channel is removed from YouTube, because that means they want us to think a certain way, and they don't want us to think thoughts that go outside of the normal mainstream perspective that we're kind of being enforced to see and look at. When we see masks, masks were something that slaves were made to wear at one point, because when we're covering our mouth, we're covering our ability to express and transmute and even take in our life force. It's a symbol of giving away your power. And again, I've seen both sides of the coin here. The masks make things better, the masks make things worse. I've seen people being really adamantly for wearing it and really adamantly against it. And what comes through when I'm channeling is, if this mask makes you feel better, and if it calms your nervous system down a little bit, wear it. If you don't, and nobody has asked about not wearing the mask, but what I intuitively feel is that if you don't want to wear the mask, go right ahead, but don't shove it in other people's face. Because when somebody is in a state of fear and you try to force them out of it, you push them deeper into the fear. The only way to really bring about healing is to have love and compassion for where everyone is at. And I've been feeling like at times just a lot of pain of the collective, just wishing that people out there weren't so divided. And the greatest remedy here is to come into a state of unity, that we are one with everything we see out there. We are one with the perpetrators, whether we perceive the perpetrators as people pushing vaccines, or whether we see the perpetrators as politicians or the right-wing protesters. Whatever we judge and condemn, there is an aspect of that we hold the seed of inside, whether it is just potential or it's something that we express in a completely different way. For example, we see them as very arrogant. And arrogance is the easiest example, because as soon as you label somebody else as arrogant, most likely you're being arrogant yourself. So we have to be able to see that same root that we perceive in the other within ourselves, and have a great state of love and compassion for them. And at the same time, we don't need to have those forces in our lives and surround ourselves with them, though we do need to be open-minded to every perspective that is occurring out there. So what do I really think about this virus itself? This virus is truly real, and it really is killing people. And I know this just through having a big network, having people tell me that many people that they know are passing due to the virus. And this is alarming. And at the same time, there are people who are also dying, and I'm seeing reports of this, because of neglect that they are imposing on themselves in accepting these standards of social distancing, isolation, all of these things. And this is really concerning for me and for my family, knowing that, people in my family at a great distance are totally alone and don't have support. If this goes on for much longer, they would be in a greater threat because of this than if they were proceeding with their lives as normal. And this is a reality, most definitely. So, a lot of what I'm doing in this video is pointing to the validity of both sides of the coin, which is a very Gemini thing of me to do. And I'm a Gemini ascendant, so I'm kind of this all over the place information processor and seeker and communicator. And unlike some channels, I am somebody who really wants to take in every bit of information out there, because I think that every perspective that I see, every different vantage point that I can see reality from, aids in my perspective. And of course it doesn't change the unique place that I'm seeing things from, but when I can, take this angle, take that angle, take that lens from another person, I get to see things in a more complete and holistic way. And I actually really feel that, channels and teachers who say, oh, I don't listen to any others, I just directly download this and feel in my intuition, are actually kind of dangerous in general. And they don't often have that full and clear perspective. Of course, I know psychics, and I've learned from psychics who just have that instantaneous clear knowing, and I experience a lot of that as well. My first impression about things usually proves itself to be true, yet I still go out and look for all of the information that I can find to see. But I don't focus on it to the extent that I'm sabotaging my ability to take care of and enjoy myself and heal myself and do the things that I can really do. So, what's been occupying the majority of my time is I've been extending my yoga and Qigong practices. I've shifted it more to Qigong and Yin yoga to really go to these deep areas in my fascia and my musculoskeletal system that I maybe not have been addressing, because the yoga I've been doing has been very strengthening, but it may not be opening all of the little locks in my joints, and I'm loving that. I'm going to do body work with a lot of actually 3 or even 4 different therapists. I'm continuing with just 2 of them, but that's really helped me a lot. Of course, I'm doing a lot of channeling practices. I'm working with people in sessions more often than before, and I'm launching a course, and I'm really helping people to work through their own psychological challenges and open up their intuitive gifts, because this is a perfect and beautiful, incredible, amazing opportunity for that. And when we use it in that way, we can, all of those things out there, they give us the gift of an opportunity to turn inwards. so that we can cultivate these things, so that we can work out our issues, that when we do return into the world, we're clearer, we're better, we're transformed, we're more capable, and we know things and we have experienced things that we wouldn't have been able to experience or know without this whole challenging, crazy experience. And that's what Bashar has been saying. As you sequester yourself, it's like we're all going on our own unique monastic journey of discovering the light and the power within us. It's like we all have our own personal retreat. And that came up in one session that I received before this, is like, you need to go on a retreat. And boy, have I been on a retreat, and so many of us have been on a retreat. And I know a lot of people as well. As much as I know people who are struggling with this, I know just as many who are thriving because of it. Because this time off without the distractions of the external world is really what people needed the whole time, to focus on the things that mattered most for them. And that's beautiful and powerful. And that aspect of this I celebrate. So, more about the virus itself. Let's say that this really is about restoring our connection to nature, because this virus couldn't spread the way it's spreading if we didn't concentrate ourselves in polluted cities, and if we didn't weaken our immune systems by overworking, by eating the wrong ways, and by stressing ourselves out by being in these over-congested environments. So this is why I am critical of vaccines. And so here, vaccines are another issue where people polarize themselves. It's either pro-vax or anti-vax. And there's wars about it. And this is something that I have been super cautious about posting or speaking about, because when you bring the subject up, immediately there's this many people agreeing with you and this many people hating you and demonizing you on either side of the coin. The pro-vax, anti-vax thing is crazy. What about critical thinkers? What about people who are exploring? What about understanding that you cannot fully form an opinion because you're not a scientist and you haven't researched all of this, but you have all of this before you, and it makes you think. So I was just watching a video from MIA, rapper pop star, you know that song, I fly like paper, get high like planes. If you catch me on the border, I got visas in my name. Long time ago. She is somebody who, really spoke out politically and had this, one-hit wonder that was leading her in this direction of fame, but then by choosing to keep her voice and not do what the rest of the big mainstream media and entertainment industry does, is dumb people down, she didn't continue to ascend in the way that she could have. But she still has this cult following. I'm a part of it. I love her. And she was talking about vaccines. And I think this is really interesting because she's somebody who grew up in poverty. And her sister nearly died of typhoid when she was younger. So, but what she says about this is that it's not, yes, she received a lot of vaccines that helped her and protected her in her younger life and traveled, but the vaccines can't solve the issue, because if typhoid is in the water, if they're not cleaning up the water and creating a more balanced, harmonious world, the vaccines are just a band-aid that don't fix the problem. And now people are pushing vaccines that are not just for, these more dangerous and serious conditions, but for the flu. And we don't know what they're putting in all these vaccines. And there is a lot of evidence that is showing that people get more sick from them, just as much as there's evidence to show that the vaccines themselves have helped and protected people in the past. So when it comes to these newer vaccines, we have to be critical about them, but we also can't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater, that some of these vaccines for things like polio, measles, different diseases that were once very common have changed our world and have made a better life for us. But at the same time, we cannot vaccinate and inject everyone. And if we really equalize the world and equalized all of these conditions for everybody, we wouldn't have to vaccinate people in general, because we have immune systems and we can create a more healthy, harmonious, beautiful world. It is possible. And so I keep that in my vision all the time. And I see the great injustice of the world, but I don't drown myself in it. And I don't I have compassion, and I know in a deep way that no one is free until we're all free. And at the same time, I know this vibration of love and joy is the medicine that the world needs. And I know some people in more like political worlds that think of that as bullshit, and they're going on their fear rampage. And I just think that's really sad, to be honest, because fear is the greatest detriment to our health. Fear lowers our immune system. Fear gets our adrenaline pumping and sabotages our natural flow of life force and energy. And fear will always kind of find something to fear. Fear will always draw in more fear. It always amplifies itself. And fear is really the greatest saboteur to our health. And you know, when you start to see from this law of attraction perspective, when you start to get in touch with your emotional guidance system, that the vibration that I am emanating expands itself, it attracts itself to me, then you start to really get this thing about love versus fear, and you're able to see that you need to change your beliefs so that you can feel a greater state of love and unity all the time. And so the most overall message is like, again, you have to love all of the people that challenge you. You have to have unconditional love for each and every one of them. You have to accept where they're at, and you have to see this situation for the good it can bring you. You have to make the best out of it, and at the same time, it's not a whole love and light whitewash, because there's real threats to our freedom that are taking place in the world today. And some people that are just so focused on the health aspect of it don't see this. So all of this new language and jargon that we're being given is just a way to sort of neuro-linguistically program us to have these fear-based associations with certain things. And the biggest one of these is the new normal. So by normalizing a loss of freedom and normalizing control and distance between people, people start to adjust to it and think of this is just the way it could be. And you know, if we start treating one disease like this, then you know, when we don't change the conditions that are creating the disease, which is again what all of these channeled beings are saying, is that this is a manifestation of our destroyed ecosystem, and that is creating a destruction to our internal ecosystem. If we don't change that and balance the ecosystem of the planet and harmonize with nature, disease after disease after disease is going to come. And this isolation could be the beginning of all of these losses of freedom. And you know, when we're at distance from each other, when we're not connecting, our immune system goes down. Connecting with others, feeling loved, feeling touch, all of this raises our immune system. All of this gives us a sense of love and connection. When we're in love and flow, we heal much quicker. So we cannot normalize what is happening right now. And we also cannot condemn people for what they are feeling. Have love, have compassion, have joy, and have optimism, and also keep questioning. We're in that Gemini season, questioning mind, seeking new information, seeking new input. What else was I going to say? There was one final thing. Let's have a moment. Love. Love is just the universal remedy. We're not always able to tap into that vibration, but the more that we return to it, the more things expand and heal. Don't allow the fear of a loss of health or a loss of freedom to bring you to react impulsively. Remember to take those moments of pausing and knowing that the real magic comes when you can make something positive out of a negative situation. This is a negative situation, but we have the power to make something positive about it. Love and light whitewashing says, oh, everything is always great. And no, the real truth is you have to learn how to use the limitations and the negativity to direct you to find your power to alchemize, create, and balance things. So these limitations are bringing us to find the ways that in our own lives we can use the situation in a good way. And taking care of yourself and taking care of others, spreading the vibration of love and unity, and not condemning anyone, whether it's a billionaire that you see as a antichrist, or whether it's somebody supporting that person, or whether it's somebody not following the rules, or somebody, whatever it is. Have love and have compassion, and see from other perspectives. When we return to unity, love, and oneness, healing is natural. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm running a channeling course now, always available for sessions and guidance. I love you very much, and wishing you the most brilliant, beautiful day. Bye for now.